The land explored by our ancestors extends from Altai to the White Sea. The scientific expedition, Trails of Nomads, continues to unveil the path of our forefathers. Its leader is a true citizen of the world. He believes, without a deep understanding of the past, there is no future. Each journey is focused on a detailed study of history and culture. Pilgrim of the 21st century, Sapphire, with a team of scientists, has already visited more than 50 countries. Scientists reveal the exciting secrets of the past. Watch an amazing story of a great journey in the Trails of Nomads program. Today's Trails of Nomads episode presents Trails of Nomads scientific expedition members continue their research in Israel. The team especially visited the place where the battle between the Mamluk army and the Mongol conquerors took place. What monument was erected by al-Zahir Beybarys? The Kipchak Sultan captured the fortress of Arsuf and completely destroyed all the buildings. Why did he do this? Sultan Beybarys, having changed clothes, captured the Sapphire citadel without a fight. What kind of dress did he wear? Israeli land has witnessed a historical battle that is worthy of getting into history books. The Battle of Ain Jalut is a battle between the Mamluks and the Mongols. In fact, both sides were people from Deshti Kipchak. That is, in fact, there was a battle between the Kipchaks. To find out the details, participants of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads arrived at this place. They were the first to become interested in this topic, local historians say.
Тарихтан білетіміз, ол басталған жер сол арада.
History sources say there was a spring here. It is behind me. The battle took place next to it, between the two mountains. Now you see one of these mountains. The second one is on the opposite side.
Менің артында тұр, екінші тау қарсы алда тұр.
These mountains, ranges stretching from east to west, are called Gilboa. Ain Jalut spring flows in their northwestern part. Jezreel Valley is extending between the two mountain ranges. Here, on September the 3rd in 1260, the battle between the Mamluks and Mongol army took place. Now, there is the village of Gideon.
Менің артындағы тұрған дала, Израиль даласы, кең даласы деп аталады. Екі әскер бірін-біріне қарсы келіп, үлкен қырғын соғыс болған жер. Бір жағында.
Behind me is the valley of Jezreel. There was a bloody battle. The Mamluks fought against the Mongol army. This is a place of sorrow for the Kazakh people. Because the Mamluk army, 90 to 95% consisted of soldiers, immigrants of the Kipchak steppe, the Mongol army also consisted of Kipchak warriors. That is, on both sides were our ancestors.
Біздің бабаларымыз болса, екінші жағында Монголдардың әскерінде, онда да 70-80% біздің ұлы даладан шыққан біздің бабаларымыз.
In 1253, the Kurultai gathering of the descendants of Genghis Khan took place in Karakorum. At this meeting, new campaigns in the Middle East were announced. Brother of the great Khan Monke, Hulagu, was appointed the leader. In 1258, Hulagu captured the main city of the Caliphate of Abbashi, Baghdad. After that, the Syrian cities were attacked. Damascus and Aleppo were captured. In 1259, when Hulagu was about to continue the seizure of territories, news came from Karakorum about the death of Monke Khan. The grandson of Genghis Khan was forced to stop the campaigns and return.
Хулагу өзінің әскерінің жартыдан көбісін бірге алып, Mongolia Karakorumға кетеді.
Hulagu, with most part of his army, returned to Mongolia to Karakorum. 1/3 of the army, headed by Ketbuga, was left. He's a native of the Kipchak steppe, a representative of the Naiman tribe. He was a very brave warlord. For a long time, he led the army of Genghis Khan. The goal of Ketbuga was to keep all captured lands until Hulagu arrived. He and his army were in Lebanon, in the ancient city of Балалбек.
Ливанның территориясында Балбек деген қала бар. Ескі қала. Сонда тұрады.
Warlord Kipchak continued the predatory operation. A letter written on behalf of Hulagu was sent to the Egyptian Sultan Qutuz through ambassadors. In it, he demanded to obey the instructions of the great empire created by Genghis Khan and surrender without bloodshed. And the Mamluks, as an answer, chopped off the heads of the ambassadors and put them on pillars. According to historians, this was the initiative of Beybarys, who at that time held the post of military leader. As a result, both sides saddled horses to fight in battle.
Монголдардың армиясының құрамында болған армяндар болды. Одан кейін
As part of the Mongolian army, there were also Armenians and Arab Christians from the city of Homs. The Mamluks army included Kipchaks from Deshti Kipchak, Bedouin Arabs, and some of the Ayyubid army. Each side accounted for 10 to 12,000 soldiers. The forces were almost equal.
бұрынғы аюбиттердің әскерінің қалдықтары азбыз. Екі жағда тең деп айтуға болады. 10-12 мыңнан.
In 1260, on July the 26th, Mamluk troops left Egypt, passed through the Sinai, and stopped at the citadel of Acre. At that time, it was run by Christians. However, their plans unexpectedly changed. They did not help Hulagu, but Qutuz, providing food and showing the way. A large army led by the Kipchak Sultans reached Galilee through the territory of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. This is the northern part of present-day Israel. At the same time, Kipchak chose the place of battle and set his army there. The surroundings of the Ain Jalut spring were chosen at the best ambush site. Thanks to this, Kipchak's army had an advantage at the beginning of the battle. However, Kipchak Sultan and Beibarys, who fought on behalf of Islam, applied a more sophisticated military strategy.
Мамлюктердің жеңіске жетуіне екі себеп болды. Бірінші,
The victory of the Mamluks was won for two reasons. Firstly, the left wing of the Mongolian army consisted of Arab Christians from the city of Homs. They could not withstand the onslaught of the enemy and retreated. Secondly, Beibarys applied military tactics, which consisted of a fraudulent retreat. This was done to pull the Mongol army closer and surround it on three sides. So the Mongols were defeated for the first time.
содан барып монголдар бірінші рет жеңіс табады.
According to medieval historians, Ain Jalut Channel was not watering but bleeding. The battle was so bloody. The Mongol army suffered a crushing defeat. All the survivors fled from the battlefield. But they were not able to escape far away, as the Mamluks pursued them and reached Kipchak's military camp in Baalbek. Kipchak, who led the army, died on the battlefield. However, there are many other versions. The number of dead soldiers from the Mamluk side remains unknown. One thing is clear. After the battle, the Mamluks originated from Deshti Kipchak, became authoritative throughout the Muslim world. They subjugated the most significant cities in Syria, Damascus and Aleppo. Sultan Qutuz appointed his allies as emirs of these cities, but this decision became the reason for the conflict.
Бұлар кейін қарай қайтады. Бір айдың шамасында Каирге жақындаған уақытында
The army went back. A month later, when they approached Cairo, Qutuz wanted to relax and hunt. At this moment, he died. Qutuz promised to Beybarys to give the leadership of Damascus or Aleppo, but he didn't keep his word. Therefore, a conflict arose between Qutuz and Beybarys. Their relationship deteriorated.
Соның арасында реніш туып, екеуі де бір-біріне дұрыс болған жоқ, көзқарастары.
After the Battle of Ain Jalut, a new era of Mamluks began, the era of rebirth. Al-Zahir Beybarys returned to Cairo in a new status as the Sultan the winner. At that time, it was believed that the army of Genghis Khan, which became famous throughout the world as conquerors of the world, could not be defeated. And the Mamluks, led by Beybarys, managed to defeat the Mongols. Katbuga has always been considered the lucky star of the Mongols, but the star faded. This is what his son said about his father. In fact, Hulagu's subsequent campaigns were weak, so the Arab countries got rid of the danger that hanged over them. The monument of victory, erected by Sultan Beybarys near the Ain Jalut spring, speaks of the importance of this victory in the history of Islam.
Ain Jalut даласында болған үлкен ұрыс
The great battle in the Ain Jalut Valley lowered the authority of the Mongolian army, and the authority of the Mamluks, on the contrary, has increased significantly.
дәрежесі өте жоғары деңгейге шейін көтерілді.
The Kipchak Mamluks, who were called the defenders of all Muslims after the struggle with the Mongol conquerors, began the fight against the Crusades. On Israeli land, the first fortress they captured was Arsuf. Now it is located in the city of Herzliya. This is the territory of the Apollonia National Park on the Mediterranean coast.
Бұл бекініс, крестьянлардың бекінісі. Олар 12-ші ғасырдың аяғы.
This is the fortress of the Crusaders. At the end of the 12th, beginning of the 13th centuries, they came here and destroyed the ancient city where the Arabs lived. A fortress was erected on the site of the city. Their main goal was to strengthen defense on the seashore, reach Jerusalem, and subjugate other cities.
Мынау теңіздің жағасында қорған салып бекіну, ары қарай Иерусалимға жету, басқа қалаларды түгел өздеріне бағындыру болған.
The city around the fortress was always called differently. Initially, in the era of the Phoenicians, in honor of the god Reshef, it was called Arsuf. During the domination of the Hellenists, Apollonia. After the return of the Arabs, the name was returned. However, for the convenience of pronunciation, they began to call it not Arsuf, but Arsuf. This change was made during the Crusaders. They called the city Arsur. Despite the inconsistency in the name, the city has always remained an important strategic harbor. In trade and other industries in the Middle East, it played the role of a bridge with Western Europe. For this reason, there were many battles for it. At the end of the 12th century, when Salah ad-Din captured the city, Richard, nicknamed the Lionheart, came here. There was a bloody battle. Then the Crusaders, led by Richard, won. As a result, the city remained under the control of the Crusaders. After the battle in 1191, September the 7th, the Crusaders erected the fortress Arsuf and strengthened the defense. It became the most powerful in the Middle East. However, in 1265, during the arrival of the Mamluks led by the Kipchak Sultans, an impregnable fortress was voluntarily surrendered.
Байбарс берет Кейсарию, разрушает ее, и затем уже идет на Арсу.
Having captured Caesarea, Beybarys destroyed it after he came to Arsur and took this fortress. For several months it was surrounded. He made several digs to the underground tunnels. These underminings can be seen today. Crusaders, learning about the digging, began to dig towards them. As a result, they made a barrier of wood and set it on fire. Beybarys' attempts failed.
Поджигают их, все рушится, и Байбарс терпит временную неудачу.
Sultan Beybarys ordered the shelling of the fortress from a catapult. However, the walls of the fortress were so thick that they could not be destroyed. Underground digging didn't lead to success. The European knights decided that there would be no more danger, but Sultan Beybarys made an attempt to enter from the other side of the fortress. It was then that the Crusaders realized that the Mamluks would not leave until they captured the fortress.
Мынау қорғанып тұрған крестьянлар білет. Бейбарыстың енді
The Crusaders who defended the fortress knew Beybarys would not stop. They were forced to surrender because they understood that they could not bring water or food. They faced hunger. Therefore, they agreed to surrender and signed an agreement. The fortress was surrendered.
келісімшарт қойылып, қамал алынады.
The Kipchak Sultan, having seized the fortress Arsuf, destroyed all its buildings. He wanted to prevent the return of the Crusaders. Instead, he built a mosque. It is called the Sidna Ali Madrasa Mosque. In the middle of the temple was the tomb of the ally of the Prophet Muhammad, the saint named Ali, local historians say. According to them, before the capture of the fortress, Sultan Beybarys read a prayer.
At
that time, Beybarys thought that all those fortresses on the seashore must be destroyed because it was impossible to allow a new arrival of the Crusaders. Even if they returned, they should have found a place to hide. There should not be any fortresses. To this end, all the fortresses on the Mediterranean coast were captured and destroyed. Participants of the expedition, Trails of Nomads, continued their work in the Israeli city of Safed. Here's one of the largest citadels in the Middle East. Sultan Beybarys did not destroy it, but on the contrary strengthened it, since it was located far from the sea. Beybarys subjugated this fortress in 1266. It was impregnable, had a very powerful defensive system. Its territory was huge, occupying almost the entire upper part of the mountain. It was very difficult to storm such a fortress, but Beybarys did not even think of doing this. He had his own tactics. Sultan Beybarys decided to negotiate peacefully with the Crusaders and force them to surrender. The European knights accepted his proposal, despite the fact that they had such a powerful structure. This fortress could not be taken even with the most advanced devices and weapons, but the enemies knew about the military qualities of Beybarys and the famous fortresses captured by him.
Байбарс лично пришел к ним.
Beybarys did not send anyone to those negotiations, but went on his own. He changed into emir's clothes. He promised on behalf of Sultan Beybarys that, in case of voluntary surrender, everyone will be forgiven. When everyone surrenders, women and children will be separated and men will be taken to a neighboring hill.
Женщин и детей отделили, а мужчин отвели на соседнюю горку.
They planned to kill all the men, so they separated women and children. The Crusaders began to resent and demand compliance with the agreement, to which al-Zahir Beybarys replied, "I did not come on behalf of the Sultan, but on behalf of the Emir. The Sultan made no promises to you." When the knights realized that the Sultan had specially dressed in the clothes of the Emir, they could not object. This indicates the tricks of Beybarys. So the Kipchak Sultan captured the Sapphire Fortress and built a 3-story tower and other necessary social facilities for the needs of the troops. This is evidenced by the sculpture of a lion, his sign. Now the lion is in the Israeli Museum in Jerusalem. The Sapphire Fortress was destroyed after the earthquake and was under the sand until the end of the 20th century. Archaeological excavations began in the new millennium. Therefore, perhaps in the near future, many more artifacts telling about Mamluks will be found.
Если покопают еще, обнаружат эту огромную крепость, которую, в принципе, взять было невозможно.
If you continue to excavate, you can completely open a huge, impregnable fortress. The Crusaders did not have the strength to keep it. Therefore, they decided to leave. Their strength and power was broken by Beybarys, who possessed such qualities as determination and the will to win.
Воля, крепкая воля.
The current city of Safed was formed around the fortress. It developed rapidly during the Mamluk period, received the status of the capital of the northern province. Here, together with representatives of other religions, Muslims settled down. Evidence of this is the Red Mosque. This temple was built in 1276 by Sultan Beybarys. Such information is kept in a plate above the gate. The architecture of the temple is reminiscent of Cairo mosques and madrasas from the time of the Mamluks. The building was also damaged by an earthquake. Probably, Safed features many similar structures left from the Kipchak Sultans. The work of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads in Israel will be continued. Scientists were convinced that the Kipchak Sultans left a great legacy in the Holy Land. We will talk about this in our next episode. See you.